All right, welcome back. I have no idea if this is going to be the intro or the outro because I can't remember if I recorded something at the beginning. So what I don't need, maybe I'll cut out. I'll break this into chunks. Anyhow, it is now Sunday, June 29th. Got back from my work trip on Friday, and as you can see, I finished up the gear support towers. That was quite the project. There's a lot going on in there, a lot of different pieces and parts and rivet callouts and things that you don't install now but have to install later, and then install or don't install, and then if you're smart like me, you mark stuff that you're not supposed to install but you install it anyways and have to drill it out. You'll see it, or you've already seen it. Either way, good times. Anyhow, what's coming up next is continuing to build the forward support structure, and part of that's going to be the bulkhead behind the avionics. And I bought some stuff thanks to Ryan at Ryan Flies. He did the skybolt fasteners on his cowl and from fairings, etc. And I decided to go look at it just to see what was there. And I like the system a lot. I'll probably use it later on my cowl. But why am I talking about cowl stuff right now? Well, while I was there, I noticed they had a RV oil door latch kit. One mod I'm planning to do, which will be probably starting in the next video you see, is the bulkhead behind the instrument panel is a common mod people do where you cut it out and you make an access panel so that from the baggage compartment you can flip it down, get to the back side of the avionics and stuff. I'm going to do that mod, and I thought I would purchase one of these oil door latch kits to see if that might be a good way to latch this door open and close. And what you end up getting are these, you get two of these Skybolt receptacles and latches. So those just twist in, and then they're a quarter turn fastener, and then they're fully adjustable. So that is how I'm going to latch that. Very reasonably priced kit. I believe it was only 19 bucks for the set of two, which if you go to Aircraft Spruce and you try and look up any quarter turn fasteners, they're horribly expensive and they're confusing as all hell to try and figure out what size and what you need. I'm hoping this simplifies things, but we'll find out. That's for the next video. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed all of this. I've got another week at home, so there will definitely be at least one more video, maybe two, before I go with some more building. Things are rolling along. It feels great to be building stuff again and seeing progress being made. And yeah, that's it. All right, welcome to the voiceover part. So when this was all said and done, this was actually a little over 10 hours of total work on this entire section. Ended up being a lot of footage. I thought about splitting it up into two, but I've just gone through and heavily edited it, so it's a little long. It's about 20 minutes for the whole video, but I try and get a little bit of everything that got done just in case anybody's working on this and wants to see some of the gotchas, and there's a few in here. Anyhow, starting out, regular parts identification and parts prep. You saw me with the fluting pliers. You have to flute those flanges to make sure that those webs end up laying perfectly flat. Same stuff did on the ribs and the wings. Now I'm just separating out some parts. Those are aluminum angles that are going to be the forward and aft angles for mounting the gear towers. There's some special notches that are marked out on them that you have to go cut out as well. And once you get them cut, they're pretty specific to the location they go. Anyhow, once you get all the parts cut out and shaped the way they need to be, it's time to do the first fit up. So start clecoing on the aluminum angles, the interior ones, the side webs, and boom, forward and aft angles. The whole point of these gear towers is for anybody watching that doesn't understand, the landing gear on the RV-8 mounts underneath the floor structure under these towers, and these towers help to share and transmit the load from the landing gear up into the rest of the fuselage and distribute that load. So these are very structural pieces, probably one of the more structural things I've done especially building it all up from scratch. Anyhow, there's the second one. There's steel weldments, those white parts you see. They're powder coated white on the front and back. They have holes in the bottom that are going to mount to the gear legs through the floor later on as well, and lots of webbing. Now that all the fit up is done, I've final drilled all of the holes. I am scuffing and cleaning all of the parts because these are going to be very visible parts and I intended to paint them. So once they were cleaned, they got a couple of coats of the self-etching primer and then a couple of coats of the dark machine gray Rust-Oleum professional paint. Now there's some different thoughts I've got going on with paint, and you'll see a few different paints. It's all going to come together, I promise. I like this dark machine gray. Items that have the potential to get nicked from tools or working on them, things like that, I'm going to paint with the Rust-Oleum just so that I can touch them up later on, which is a good thing. Other items are going to get Cerakoted, like the floor panels, probably the side panels. They'll be wear items, but they shouldn't need touching up like these do. And then I have some light gray that I bought thinking that was the color I was originally going to go with, but I don't like how light it is. I like this dark machine gray better. But since I have it, I am going to use it. So all of the parts that aren't commonly seen, support structures and stuff that are behind other structures, will get that light gray. And you'll see some of that in here. Also the closed-in spaces, like the avionics area, baggage area, those will be the lighter gray. Moving right along, you can see everything is painted. Everything had a chance to cure. I actually painted it all before my work trip, so it had a good 4 or 5 days to cure before I came back to start riveting this together. And good news is a fair amount of this can be done with the squeezer. I came up with lots of ideas in my head on different processes or ways to do it, but if you follow the instructions, it ends up working out mostly. Here I'm just putting in the nut plates that go on this particular web. I think this is for the right side. There's a few nut plates that go on the back side of it. And now I'm getting the aluminum angles riveted on. Again, using the squeezer for absolutely everything you can. All of these parts are going to be pretty visible. You're going to see them, at least the front side of them, well, the back side of them in front of the pilot, pretty much every time you get in and out of the plane. That's not always going to be the case because, yeah, I tried my best to make these all pretty. When I have to go to the rivet gun later on, I definitely made some of it ugly. But we'll get to that part. Using my vise, my little bench drill top vise there to hold the squeezer really makes it handy for gaining back an extra hand and manipulating the parts. Have to pay attention to all the rivet callouts. There's lots of different sizes going on with all of these different angles and all these different shear webs and things like that. You definitely don't want to screw it up, and always just, you know, take a quick look at the tail of the rivet before you go and set it and make sure it looks right. At this point, you're probably able to look at it and say, yeah, that looks too short, or that's really long, and then you can check it. A lot of this video has been highly edited. You're not going to see me do the exact same thing on both sides. Nobody needs that kind of repetition. I'm just trying to hit the highlights here. The highlight on this is that you can reach every one of those rivets on that front web by sticking that yoke in through the lightning holes, which was good. I thought I was going to have to use the rivet gun, but I was able to squeeze every one of them. Those came out really, really clean. Happy with the way they set, the way they looked. And this very last top corner one, you can't reach from the hole, but you can reach it from the outside. Just pull the squeezer out and you can grab that last one. All right, so now you got to put these weldments on. And you notice they're gray as well. I didn't strip the powder coat off. I just scuffed it up and primed and painted over them just so they would all match the same color. But you have to drill out these last holes, and you use the forward and aft angles as drill guides. But before you do that, they want you to insert 4 of the bolts to hold the weldment in place, and I didn't run them down tight because you only get one use of those lock nuts, so I used the bolts kind of as alignment pins, and then I used those clecos to help squeeze it in tight and hold it, and seemed to work out really well. And this way I didn't have to use up the locking feature on the lock nuts ahead of time, which probably isn't a big deal because the very next step you install all of those bolts and run everything down and torque it. So you see me fidgeting with these back bolts, and I'll throw a picture up here in a second. That middle bolt right there of those 3, the nut interferes with the web on the weldment behind it. And I didn't realize this until this point. Had I realized it earlier, I probably would have clearanced it. There you go. You can see the nut hits that little bit of the web right there. The only way around that is get out the Dremel with a grinding stone and smooth that over and just round it down a little bit so you get clearance for that nut. Definitely want to check that before you get to this stage. It would be a lot easier without that thing all up in there like it is. But it wasn't too bad. I was able to get the Dremel in there, get it cleared out, and the nut fit with perfect clearance after that. Just know you're going to run into that. All right, time to look up the torques. You'd think I'd know this by now because it's pretty much the same for most of these fasteners because they're all A and 3s, but so right now there's only 2 bolts not installed on that forward weldment, and those get installed with the mid brace that comes later, and you'll see that. This entire process, though, is a whole lot of don't install this bolt right now, or don't install this rivet right now. It'll get installed later, and that makes it very, very confusing for a lot of these things. Bolts aren't a big deal because you can take bolts out. Rivets get a little dicier because you don't want to be drilling out rivets, but I did do that as well. So get all those nuts run down and get the torque wrench on them and get them all torqued. And I'm not sure if these are the bolts you have to recheck the torque on every year during your condition inspection or not. Now I'm applying torque seal to them. They are going to be challenging to get to inside of those gear towers later on. There's some people modify those gear towers to put an access hole in there. Being as structural as they are, I decided against that, and I will just fight with getting my hand in there. Well, there's the first 2 rivets I shouldn't have put in that you saw me drill out because one of them had to be left open to get this mid brace on. Not a huge deal. They drilled out just fine, but it's not going to be the last one. So the other thing you got to do once you get these on is there's a hole on the aft weldment that you need to mark. You see me marking them there to not put a rivet in later when you put all of those rivets in that aft weldment. Little foreshadowing. Anyhow, get the floor pan back out again. Now you're clecoing the towers down so that it can final drill the holes, and you also do the riveting of the weldment while this thing is clecoed in place. I don't know if that helps with alignment or what the deal is, but the directions were pretty specific that you have these attached here before you install these rivets. Okay, so here's the start of my screw up. Those top 6 rivets you can get with the squeezer, and I'm just going after it with the rivet gun because I think I can. My other problem is this is the side that you face when you're sitting in the pilot seat. So I should have started on the back side, so if I made anything ugly, at least it wouldn't be visible all the time, but live and learn. Those ones can be squeezed. Comes out much better when you do squeeze them. I had issues with the rivet gun. I've got those little plastic tips for the cup set, and they had been working really well, but for whatever reason, they were marring up the paint really bad on this one. And yeah, I had a couple bad rivets I had to drill out. Finally, I abandoned that thing and went to tape. There's what that first attempt looked like. You can see the paint got messed up. And Yeah, I think right there you saw me. I filled the rivet hole I shouldn't have filled. So I had to drill that back out. Actually, no, this is the back side now. But I did fill that rivet hole in the front that I had marked to not fill. I even had a cleco in it. Pulled the cleco out and stuck a rivet in it. Anyhow, this is the last side. By this time, they were looking really nice. Those look way better. So yeah, get your practice out of the way where it's not visible. Anyhow, final drill all of those angles to the floor itself. And then at this point, I decided it was good time to go ahead and paint the floor, since these are going to get mounted in the next step and riveted to the floor. And like I said, I'm going to Cerakote the floor panels. So this is the tungsten, and I ran out at the very end. I wish I had had just a little bit more, but I think I had enough to get the job done. Cerakote sets up really well. You can handle it in just a couple of hours. All of that was earlier in the morning. This is later in the afternoon, evening now that I'm getting these towers put back in place, and I'm going to rivet them on. Had to go adjust the air pressure because I dialed it down for the painting part. Pretty obvious right away. Now, you only install rivets on the aft side of those for now. You leave the front just clecoed in place. Just like many of the other things on here, it's one of those, you'll get to them later. So now it's time for the cross braces. There's a front upper one and an aft one. And then there's a throttle quadrant bracket that goes on. So got to get those parts out. Same routine as before, get them final drilled, cleaned up, scuffed, primed, painted, all that good stuff. There is a specific note in bold in the instructions that tells you that that one on the aft side, which is the one that'll end up being closest to the instrument panel, is structural, should not be altered, modified, omitted, or anything like that. I think they put that note there because that brace has precluded people in the past from putting very deep avionics very low in the panel, and I think some people have probably fought the urge to modify it, but Vans is very specific not to do it. Anyhow, everything's been cleaned and primed and painted. You can see those braces there are the light gray I was talking about. I think they actually look pretty good. They're going to be behind the panel, so not a big deal. And now it's time to rivet those in place. All of these can be reached with the squeezer, thankfully. I'll get you a good shot of that. And then there's also bolts that hold them on. I'm not putting the bolts on right away. I'm going to jump to the mid braces because the bolts, you have to radius the washers, which I did over at the sanding disc, just to clear the corner because the inboard ones get really close to the web of the angle piece that they go against. So you put a little radius in them so that they'll clear it, and then you got to prime them because they're steel washers, and well, you just scrape the coating off of them. So right now the primer is drying. I was doing those braces, putting the nut plates in, and now I'm getting those bolts installed. Same as before, get them installed and get them torqued. And then I go back and put torque seal on all of the nuts. Last piece, install the throttle quadrant bracket, which is just a small piece of angle that has a few nut plates on it. Sorry you don't have a good angle of it from here, but I'll flip this around in a second. You'll see it when it's done. No good way to squeeze those because they're kind of far in there, so just had to shoot them, but they came out good. Anyhow, if you've stuck around this long, I appreciate it. Thanks for all of the support. I'm going to get back after whatever's next in the plans and see how far I make it this week before I leave again. Like I said in the intro, it's a lot of fun finally making progress again and being able to put things together. I've got a few shots of all the completed stuff here in the end. I'll get you both the inside looks of those gearboxes or those gear towers with everything bolted and riveted in place, as well as a front and back on the finished assembly here. So again, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for all the support, and I will see you all on the next one.